So the World Green Building Council is a member network, essentially an umbrella organization of 75 green building councils all around the world. We're located in 5 different regions, and these green building councils work with the private sector primarily to advance green building. And when we talk about green building, it's both the buildings, the physical infrastructure of a building once it's built, but it's also the process of building, and that includes not just buildings themselves, but also major infrastructure projects. And so green building councils everywhere from Sweden to India are addressing how in the construction process we can be more green and be really demonstrating leadership. We also have DGNB, which is our Green Building Council here in Germany. And these green building councils work in a few areas. They look at certification of buildings, and in some cases infrastructure, to really motivate leadership and kind of recognize companies that are certifying these projects. Also training. In order to really meet the demands for green building, we need to know how to do it, how to implement on the ground, making sure that we have the skills for today. Also influencing policy, these green building councils. We must work with governments at a national, a regional level, but also a city level, which is increasingly important. And then also just awareness raising to really tell the story of what green building can do. And we believe in green building for a couple of key reasons. And the first is that we believe that green building is better for us today. So this isn't just about the future. Green building can be more cost effective. It can be better for our health and well-being. It can create economic and social benefits that we see today, now, which is a large part of why so many businesses like Volvo are embracing this as a business model. But it's also better for us tomorrow, and I think this resonates with Volvo Construction Limited's their tagline, Better Tomorrow. But this is about also being able to thrive on the planet in the future and making sure that we can have economic growth that is decoupled from environmental degradation. And we see this as being entirely possible. So, thinking about why green building is better for us tomorrow, in the lead up to the COP21 climate change negotiations that happened in Paris at the end of the year, we started working with the International Energy Agency to get a better understanding of the numbers. So, we heard Marty say that building and construction contributes to about 30% of global emissions. Well, what is that number, and what's that looking like in the future? So we took a look at a number of scenarios that the IEA had done, the 3 biggest sectors contributing to climate change, one of which was buildings. And what they demonstrated was that if we keep building the way that we are building today, we are contributing and on track to a 6-degree scenario of global warming, the results of which would be catastrophic. It's really scary, but the good news is that we know that we can change that trajectory. And then if we make significant, dramatic changes in the way that we're working today, we can actually achieve a 2-degree scenario, which is in the realm of safety for us as a human race. But what we noticed was that the number between now and 2050 of greenhouse gas emissions that we have to reduce is 84 gigatons. That's an important number. So from now until 2050, that's what we need to reduce within this sector. And we think it's entirely possible, which is why we turned this into our World Green Building Council commitment that we committed to at the COP21 in Paris. And this consists of both we as a movement working with the companies that are members of our Green Building Councils, but also the Green Building Councils in their individual countries working with national governments to figure out how we can reduce this. So this was really exciting to us at the COP21. We went and made this commitment along with a number of other companies that made major commitments. And this was a very different COP. I don't know how familiar some of you are with some of the COP events in the past, but this is an example of a COP that didn't go very well. And this was in Copenhagen. And these are the world leaders. I'm sure you recognize most of these, feeling very dejected after many, many hours of failed negotiations. They were unable to reach agreement for a treaty that would protect us, the human race, from climate change. But what happened in Paris was very different. There actually was an agreement, but even more so, there was a recognition that a number of sectors, including the building sector, actually had the solutions. That yes, there's a treaty negotiation happening, but actually that really where the real momentum was within the private sector. And that many companies were standing up and saying, we are doing this, we know how to do this. And there was a whole day dedicated to buildings. This is one of my favorite pictures because this was actually taken from the stage on the Buildings Day where all all of the companies were standing up there and making these commitments. And there was so much excitement and enthusiasm and interest about what these companies were committing to, which was in stark contrast to what happened in the late 90s with the dejected world leaders. And I think what this is showing is that there is momentum towards a new economy, that we are decarbonizing, this is happening, and I think we as a sector really must get behind it, otherwise we as an industry will fall behind. So this is really important going forward. And I think there are a number of implications of what was called l'Appel de Paris. It was the agreement that was signed that will affect the industry. The first is transparency. In the actual treaty, there is every 5 years, all of the countries that are signatories will have to really stand up on a stage like this and almost do a weigh-in to show how the commitments that they made at COP have actually been implemented. They'll have to show how they've been reducing their greenhouse gas emissions. And what will start happening is that companies will be expected to do the same. And we're already starting to work with a few organizations to do this. But if your country, your national government is expected to stand up on stage and do a weigh-in, they're also going to want to see the major corporations in their country doing the same. So for all of you as the industry, this will start happening more, that you'll be expected to really do your kind of weigh-ins and show how you're reducing emissions. We're also seeing a lot of tenant-led demand for green buildings. So for major infrastructure projects as well, we're seeing that there's a huge corporate social responsibility aspect, that these companies know that it must happen, and so there's a kind of demand pull as well. But also major national and city level policies. The picture on the bottom right is actually all of the 100 mayors gathered at Paris City Hall with Mayor Bloomberg to make major commitments on policies and projects that they're committing to. So we're seeing mayors really get behind this at a major level. So really then what we're seeing is that the industry is starting to change. And we launched a bit of a campaign in the lead up and during the COP to really demonstrate that, you know, the profit, commercial sense, bottom line, this is the language of green building. This isn't just about, you know, doing good in the future. This is actually going to be the new business model. And we know that really if we start today, every new building could be carbon neutral from tomorrow. We just really need to start now and as soon as possible.